think Lost Ark will ever reevaluate the 6-character lockout system and become more flexible than 3 gold earners per 6.
I mean, they were more flexible, right? And they switched to this.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't know. Korean players from Vets, there's an Inman post of people elaborating on that era. The era where people claimed everybody was making accounts and inflation was going crazy was because they put out a 1370 payable power pass, with that being the highest item level gear achievable, and infinitely being able to run raids. I don't know, it's silly. There wasn't, like, unlimited gold earning characters is not bad. It was releasing a power pass at highest item level, allowing for all of the highest item level gold earning raids to be achievable with one click over and over again, and using it as like a cash grab comboed with gold inflation to therefore make people have to spend even more money to get gold.
But like, the downside of allowing people to make a roster of 24 characters and earn gold on those characters is that if you are not doing that and not keeping up, then you're going to quit because you don't want to put more time in, and you feel like you have to put 24 characters worth of time in. Like with 6, or with there being a cap, then you know how much effort you have to put in. Now, granted, do people put it, like, the core issue is not being able to reach your goals. So if they allow people to reach their goals, which are individualized to each player, but generally we can say normal mode of the next content before, like going from normal mode to normal mode, I think is a reasonable expectation of players. Having that be achievable through one character worth of playing, and ideally not having to do anything that is chore, that is perhaps unreasonable, perhaps some amount of chore is, some amount of homework is necessary to facilitate the churn of raids, because what will be the line for homework to some is the line of enjoyment to others. So if that were to be alleviated, if that were to be able to be achieved through just one character, then having multiple characters wouldn't necessarily be an issue.
Because the characters are feeding themselves at that point. You're doing extra raids to feed the extra characters, not to feed the one character.
I think that slightly goes against the funneling structure that the game has had, which,
I mean,
we've perhaps gone long enough where
it's not a thing anymore. For the first point, we are at the point in the game where you can go normal mode to normal mode with one character. You'll never be able to bridge the gap into hard mode that way, but you can go normal mode to normal mode with one toon. Especially now that we're going even longer again between, because, like, you know, we're pretty caught up.
Yeah. So what are the other downsides? The other downsides are, if you are someone who's able to put in more time, you're going to get more gold. You might actually end up with a similar amount of gold because you're using that to fund your character's progression.
And that will cause, and then it's a downside and upside. So the downside would be, if not enough people participate in the system, if there aren't enough players playing this uncapped amount of characters, and gold inflation will get worse due to the ones that are, and have all the extra gold and spending power. But at the same time, if a breaking point happens, or if a tipping point happens, right, where enough people are using this newfound thing to pump up a bunch of characters, it will actually make things cheaper because they're using all their gold on their character.
I mean, that's not how inflation works. Inflation would make things more expensive because...
Yeah, I'm saying it would counter... I'm saying that...
You would need to have some system that is a sync that scales with characters directly, not just with individual characters, because it can't just be honing, because a single character needs to hone. It can't just be transcendence, a single character needs to transcend.
I mean, there are enough of those single character systems, though, for it to work.
The balance should be such that the faucet coming in for a singular player leaves them with an amount of gold in excess, or else they never have any means of acquiring progression.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't just have your faucet be perfectly balanced with your sink to where it drains out of the bottom at the same rate as it fills in from the top. Because then you never accumulate any water, and people want to accumulate the water in order to do something like purchase relic books or acquire level 10 gems. And for things like relic books, since those scale across the roster to where having more characters would cause the people that are able to do that to have more wealth than those that don't.
But it would make the relic books go down in price.
Why do you think that?
Because there'd be
I
more
think it
of
would
them.
make the relic books go up in price.
I mean, the more relic books that we generate, the cheaper they get.
But they'd have more gold with which to buy them.
I think the supply with an influx of characters would outweigh that. Because right now we have the current problem of there's not enough supply and people have extra gold. So like the price is going crazy.
But people would only have even more extra. Like, you would earn more gold than you would relic books, like as a ratio. That ratio would only increase. And not only would it only increase, it would increase at a disproportionate K-shaped curve to where some people would be able to acquire the gold to then pay the extra price, which would eventually cause the price to come down because the people that are able to pay the more money would have the book.
I think the initial impact is a spike, but I think the long term of the transition is everything goes cheap.
Or you wind up in the situation where only the elite can buy things, only accessories that sell are ones that sell for hundreds of thousands of millions of gold.
I don't know, we're already at that point, which is the alarming part.
Just because things are bad does not mean they can't get worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can get worse. I'm just theorizing, is there a way that uncapping it makes it better?
I think uncapping it would exacerbate the issues.
What is that long
Now,
term?
there's the argument of these issues being exacerbated if you're able to bypass them by putting in the effort to run all of your characters through a bunch of raids. Is that outcome worth?
Because the only
I
way...
don't think it is, because I think that the game should be able to be enjoyed and consumed and cater to players such as Worm, who don't have infinite time to run infinite raids. And I think that in this system where there's infinite raids to be run, causing more gold to be generated, I think that that would lock out that style of player.
I don't necessarily disagree. I feel like it's or I guess the example I could go back to is right now we have the scenario where people do have quote unquote just infinite characters. We're just playing infinite rosters, right?
Infinite in the sense that you fill up the amount of time in a week.
I don't know what the amount of players is that would participate in an uncapped system, because I do understand the flaw of the uncapped gold system is that not enough people participate in it, not enough more casual players, right, start to try to participate in it and do more raids than they were previously doing. So I'm going to say a casual Lost Ark player is doing their 6 characters raids at this point. So
I mean,
would they do more?
Is that like, sure, are they doing the 6 characters because that's the cap, and if there was more, would they push to do more? Like,
Yeah.
if the cap was 12, would people do like, there is a breaking point where
Yeah. I don't know what the breaking point is, so I just propose it as unlimited, right? I don't know what the actual limit would be, right, to this, so I'm proposing it as unlimited.
because to me the limit is 3, but we're already past that. Like, I would almost prefer them to move in the other direction of fewer raids, increase the drop rate of books.
Yeah, but like for me, if it was fewer raids, I'd just stop playing. Playing more rosters is a worse solution for the community. We can see that. Like, so I guess basically my idea around this, right, is because if people are playing more rosters anyway, why not just let them play it on their roster? Because the benefit...
Yeah, but I think it's very few people that are playing multiple rosters.
I don't think so.
I mean,
I think you underestimate how insanely grind degenerate most of the people still playing this game are.
maybe I do. That doesn't seem like it meshes with the daily, weekly lockout system where people are able to be in the same cohort. My concern is that this is going to, or if this were to be implemented, sure, it would be great for the Giga grinders, but the people that aren't able to grind as much will just silently drop off. And then you'll just be left with the Giga grinders, which might be enough to sustain the game and might be fine. But I think that you can have both the Giga grinders and the more casual gamers.
Yeah.
Which I think is the majority.
I think that the thing that I'm wondering what would happen is at a certain point, does the Giga grinder just start Because like the Giga Grinder, right, has to sell to somebody. Like they have to sell their stuff to somebody on the market. Like they will.
At some point, yeah, but for the initial part, they have to purchase things.
Which will be sold by another Giga Grinder.
More than likely, yeah.
So it's like, does at that point, do they start it's saturation, right? Like at a certain point, the amount of people grinding, if it's enough, should saturate the market. And then things should just become more affordable for everyone.
The ratio right now, like there's no reason to suspect that the ratio would change because we effectively have unlimited raids run just across the entire community. And the ratio right now is that gold is outstripping the relic book generation.
So, I mean, the relic books are one thing, but like the biggest concern right now is
whatever you want to pick, right? Whatever you think is too highly priced, that would be alleviated by this change. I think the opposite would happen. The opposite would happen as a whole, but for the individuals who are able to participate in the system, it would be less bad. But for those that are unable to participate in the unlimited raid running, it would be even worse.
I mean, I can see it. I guess just at the current pace, there's no way out. There's no way through.
I mean, as new raids come out, relic books will be.
I'm not talking about just relic books. Are like they're
pick whatever you want. I'm using relic books as a proxy.
It's different. They're not all the proxies here are the same though. Because
what proxy do you want to use?
Leap stones are regular honing materials.
Okay, those will also become more available as the higher raids come out.
That's
right now at the beginning of tier 4. It is the whale time to get ahead and bask in their whaleness, sing their whale songs as they gobble up the market in this pay-to-win game, the same as it was in tier 3, to where the Giga Whales were able to race ahead, and then once everyone catches up, it's time for tier 5. And this is going to happen again and again and again.
The thing we have right now is we don't have... The thing I think is happening is people have characters that they aren't playing because they don't earn gold. And if that character earned gold and did the raids, a part of the materials that you get are bound. So I think what would happen is people would be doing those extra raids for the gold. They would take the gold, then they would have the bound mats from the raid that they would use they would then use the gold from the raid on that character, but then list their extra unbound mats from guardians and shit that they do on the market. And the idea is that this system would inevitably make the amount of materials on the market cheaper, because if people are using their gold on their characters, they have bound mats from doing the extra raids for gold, and then when they list the stuff on the market, the price will go down because there'll, one, be more stuff listed, but two, every player will have less gold. The reason you would think they'd have more gold because they're doing question mark amount of raids. What I'm saying is I think because of the habit of a Lost Ark player, they will have less gold, less buying power, because they are incentivized to keep playing the characters because they are fun and because they're earning gold. I get that in this case, if somebody is a giga efficient super blaster and just only wants to play one character, that they will be infinitely far ahead of another person. But to me, at that point, they're trading their roster
they're
power.
Infinitely behind.
Why are they infinitely behind?
A new character in the system where you are unlimited raids, unlimited dailies, unlimited, like, you can just play as many characters as you want on your roster. Adding an additional character is not a net drain. It's a net positive.
How?
How would it not be? Why else would you make the character? Why would you play 6 characters right now instead of 1?
For fun? To play other classes?
Like, the faucet going in is more than the sink coming out. Like, that has to be true, or you wouldn't get anywhere.
I mean, we never make the gold back that we use on characters. The amount of gold we put into an individual character never gets made back. Not even a fraction of it. At current state. I guess I think it's been that way the whole time. In the environment that I'm proposing, the most common character would be, let's say for instance, right, a 1640 character with absolutely nothing on them. Unless the person is enjoying the character, and then as a new raid comes out, my thing is, I think the habit of a new raid coming out and people seeing that and being like, oh man, I need to get that extra gold number from that new raid. And then they end up pushing the characters, but they don't realize they're never going to make that gold back. But they still do it anyway. Like, that's been the habit of Lost Ark players since the game started. Like, that's just how the game gets, like, that's just what the game does.
Then how is everyone not completely destitute with no money ever?
Because we funnel around.
So like there has to be some amount of gold filling, or like your sink has to be filling up. And how else would that be filling up other than having characters?
Yeah, but if you kept pushing characters and kept playing more characters, you would not gain gold.
There comes a point where you push a character, it gets to a plateau, and then it starts accumulating. Like it has to be generating more faucet for you. And if you just keep piling more and more characters, you just get more and more faucet.
But then you also have more and more drain if you decide to push them.
You have a drain while you're pushing them, but then if you don't push them because you're between content, then you'll just be more and more faucet.
You'll be making back the gold that you spent, yeah, but you'll never make it back.
How does anyone have any gold ever then? If the state of the game is having characters is a net loss, how does anyone have any, like, characters are what make money?
Yep.
How can that does not match with characters lose money, characters make money? These you can't have both of these.
Okay. Put it this way. My artist cost 1.3 million gold to push. It will take this artist character over a year to generate that gold back from that push of that bracket of item level. I will push it again before that.
It costs 1.3 million gold. Is that 1.3 million raw gold or 1.3 million gold?
1.3 million raw gold.
So how does anyone make any money ever?
Paying.
That can't be the only way that gold, like, that just, it can't be true.
I mean, I'm telling you that not one of my characters has ever made the gold back that they've spent.
Then how do you have any gold?
Because you funnel all the gold you make from your account to one character, boost that character up, and then recuperate the cost to do it again. Because the next raid gives you more gold, but it's a fraction of what you spent. So you sit at that point idly waiting to then go again. And you get around this hole you're digging by giving all the gold to one character at a time, or by paying.
Okay, and having more characters would only make this to where you're able to funnel the stuff more.
If you choose to do so, yes. But I think that the trick people would fall into, that with having more characters that earn gold, they would feel like they can play more characters, and then they would end up pushing those characters. And as long as they keep doing that, they are never going to be gaining the gold back that they're using to push these characters, and everything in the market should become cheaper. That's the theory, at least.
I don't subscribe to that theory.
It's fine not to. It's an extreme theory. The actual change I'm suggesting is just to allow you to play 18 raids of gold on whatever raids you want on whatever characters, and as long as it hits 18, you're good. How many @ marks did we send? What the fuck? My actual solution is to just allow people to play whatever amount of raids they want and cap the gold at 18 raid. That's my real suggestion.
So would you be able to do 18 egg years on your highest eye level character?
Yes, if you chose to do so, yeah.
Why wouldn't you just do 18 egg years?
Because it's boring.
Okay, but it's the most efficient thing you can do.
Cool. That's good for that guy. That's good for who wants it to be efficient. That's fine. Let them do it. Almost nobody would, though.
Simultaneously, I underestimate the grinders, but I also am incorrect that they would do the most efficient grinding.
It's a difference between most efficient grinding and something that's still remotely fun. The current state of infinite characters doing infinite raids would still have the caveat of that character will be locked out to 3 raids.
I think for the reason of protection from self-harm, and for the reason of I don't want there to only be A-gear lobbies, I think having the restriction of running the raid once is needed.
It's just so boring, though. Also, why do you think everybody would just run A-gear?
Because it gets you the highest chance at relic books, it gets you the most gold, it gets you the most materials. If you just had one group that wanted to do it over and over again, you could knock out 18 raids immediately, not having to switch characters.
And you think this is what you think this is what people would do?
Extremely efficient. I think that people who care about efficiency would opt into this, and that a significant enough portion cares about efficiency to this degree to make it a problem to find other raids.
Okay, what about the idea of you can do 18 raids however you want on your top, however many characters, but you can't repeat a raid more than twice?
I mean, I'd even extend it to 3 times if you really wanted to. Like, I think you could get away with doing 3 egg.
I think you should be able to do 3 of the newest raid on, like, I don't think there should be anything stopping you from doing 3 of the same newest raid. If you wanted to. It's the newest raid for a reason.
Like, the issue with that is that it will make the newest raid, or whatever the top tier raid is, lose its luster even quicker, because you're going to be re-clearing it week 1 if you're being the most efficient you can. And the other issue is that it hurts the person doing it, but we will often injure ourselves to make number go up.
I also think it improves the skill of the community if players are able to do the newest raid, or even incentivized to do their newest raid multiple times on that character. I think that is a very big concern right now. Is that people don't get to do the newest raid enough, and the raids are tough. So they're just like, help.
I don't know. I'd maybe like there to be something that makes it to where you can't just run the same group 3 times in a row, but that might be.
I don't think you can just stick that in an MMO. People play with who they want, right? If they want to play everything with one set of people, let them do it.
But like the downside is you're removing a lot of groups that way.
See, that's the thing is, I don't think you would end up doing that because I think people will just be like, let's just do something different. We can do it, right? They have the freedom to do a different form of raids. A different form of raids.
Why would people ever use their freedom to do something that doesn't get them the most?
Because they want to have fun too.
People want to progress way more than they want to have fun.
That is not true.
That is so true.
The amount of people that swipe for a purple glow because they think it's fun versus the efficiency of 5 years, like what they could just not do. I don't know. People just like fun, people would just do different stuff because they could. It's more about just opening up the system to not be so strict. My opinion is that the current state of 3 raids per character in a top 6, and you have to bracket off these top 6 characters as your top 6, do the same 3 raids on them every time, no different order, is just lame. Like, it's just way too restrictive. If they're choosing to be min-max efficiency, let them do it that way. Because that's the same thing they're doing right now, right?
And people are doing it right now to where they're min-maxing themselves into the unfun thing because it's the most efficient.
Yeah, but that's because it's locked in. It's a locked-in routine. If you gave people the flexibility, they would sometimes choose flexibility.
If you take down the guardrails, then people can peer even farther over the mountains. I think some people will fall off.
That's cool. I think that's
not cool to have people falling off mountains, Eggman.
I mean,
that kills people.
Okay. In this case, there doesn't need to be guardrails.
I think some amount of guardrails are
that's the 18 raids. That is the 18 raid limit. I'm saying the 18 raid limit doesn't need to be within the current 6 characters can do 3 raids. Because right now the guardrails are literally crushing people.
Is it the guardrails that are crushing people, or is it people's?
It's people crammed against other people. It's people crammed against other people with the guardrails and not understanding single file line. Still, the guardrails are partially at fault here.
Yeah, but if we remove the guardrails, they're just gonna end up still packing together and pushing people off.
Maybe. Or maybe they'd loosen up a little bit. Free up some space for each other.
I think you have much greater hope, and I've played World of Warcraft. There is no loosening up.
I also think it's fair to say that if you run a raid a second or third time, it cuts the gold down. I don't think it should ever cut the raw mats down. I think it should cut the gold down.
The first raid you do should be 100% materials. The second raid you do gives you 80% materials. The third raid you do gives you like 70% materials.
Yeah, we could work with a system like that, right? Where people can keep doing the same raid on the same character, but inevitably, you could also even just have it work out to be people, the 18 raid limit can exist, and at the end of whatever choice of 18 raids you choose to do, you will get the same amount of gold and mats.
But, the issue with that then becomes, why not just do the easiest raid?
Yes. Yep, that's where the fun part comes in, because people want to have fun.
Again, I think people care way more about being efficient.
The game would not exist if people didn't want to have fun.
Okay, the efficiency of it is fun to people.
Yeah, but also there's a section of people that just want to have fun.
Yeah, those are girls. I hear they just want to have fun. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure this is a male-dominated game. Judging by our YouTube analytics, it's like 99.7% male. I think it's 0.2% female and 0.1% built different. Okay,
let's say you can't even get the amount of... You don't even end up with the same amount of materials. If you choose to spam one raid for lobby simulator efficiency, you will at the end of the day end up with 30% less mats than you would have if you had just done it the quote unquote optimal or maxed mat efficiency way. I think any way that we spin this system, the vision I'm shooting for is more freedom in the way you choose to do your raids. And yes, somebody, even majority, might always pick to do what is most efficient. But in the current state, there is no way to even be flexible with the amount of fun or efficiency you're having at all. And that is a problem. The stranglehold is a problem. In my eyes.
I don't agree, because like there will still be, whether the stranglehold is imposed by the guardrails putting everyone into the same thing, or by the meta dictating what is the efficient thing to do, like,
yeah, but meta can
there's not a wide enough selection of things to where you can choose such wildly disparate activities to make it to where you're achieving optimal progression. And I don't know, I think that you're still able to do raids on your non-gold earners, right?
Yep, but only 3. Why not more? If they don't earn gold, especially, why not just let them go in again?
I mean, I do think that you should be able to enter a raid again. The reason not to, I guess, would be busing.
You can see the example in WoW, right? With carries, inevitably carries die out, because once people can do it and run it repeat, right, they just don't, like, they don't sell anymore, right?
I'm not sure that that's true. I think carries exist in
WoW. Yeah, they exist the whole time, right? But they're way cheaper, right? They get to a point where, why would you pay for it, right? And if you pay for it, that's still fine, right? You just don't want to physically do the activity, and that's okay.
Yeah, I don't think busing's an issue.
Yeah, I don't actually think it's an issue either. People would unironically think it's even less of an issue under the system of being able to run raids over and over again. And that's what people realize after somebody talks about the fact that if you could re-enter a raid over and over again on the same character, the busing would just kill itself off.
There would be a less competitive market for it, because, or a more competitive. The bussers would have to compete more.
Yeah, and inevitably they would just choose to either not play the game doing a bus or keep doing it, but just for less, because it's the way they enjoy playing the game, and that's fine, right? It wouldn't destroy the market. Is the end goal? Is the end result? Is that no matter what, it can't destroy the market because the players wouldn't let it. I also think that it should be fine. Like, really, the idea of being able to enter the raid multiple times for literally nothing other than just being able to clear the raid again should just exist, because people need to be able to get better at the raid more than once a week. It's just that simple. Like, people need to be able to. People need, because it's just fun. People just want to play the game more on the character they enjoy and have fun. So, like, if you increase,
also, like, being able to help your friends.
Yeah.
Not even just like, I don't think busting's an issue. I think that is like the one thing you could say against being able to enter the raid multiple times for no reward.
But if you understand the market, you'd understand
busing.
that. Yeah,
because if it, like, Roman, the busser here, our resident busser, if he could enter the raid multiple times, like, he's not going to be able to charge the same amount, because every other busser is also able to enter the raid multiple times, so they'd have to charge less.
Yeah, you already.
It is a less.
I actually don't necessarily agree with that.
It's a less limited resource. Like, your entry as the busser is a less limited resource if you're able to enter multiple times. Now, there is still the scarcity of the person that you are bussing. Their first clear giving them materials is a limited resource, and so it would still have value. But I think it would be less.
Well, if you're doing it at the latest rate, like, you're always just gonna end up like netting profit more, right? Because I came in like midway through this conversation, but if your entire proxy is like you're able to enter the newest rate multiple times, you are always going to run into the people. Like, that is always going to be a net positive for the bussers, because now we are doing.
And that's I think that's fine.
It
at
will
the newest
be
raid.
More gold in a week, because you're able to do it multiple times. It'll be less gold per bus.
Sure, but that still is not a good thing.
Why do you think it's not a good thing?
Because then what are you trying to do, right? If I'm still making the same per bus, like I'm guessing I'm not quite seeing what this solving. Yeah.
That's solving.
Oh, it's just
people-
like the general thing of like people being able to play the raid and it not being
Yeah.
affected by like external.
Yeah.
Okay.
And eventually, the goal would be is that people would stop buying your bus because they can just do the raid.
Nah, that's never gonna happen.
That's never gonna happen. But I
To
don't
be
think
like
it's an
with the
issue.
amount of FOMO in the game and like the amount of people who are just dog at it, like it's just not happening.
Like it happens in WoW. People buy buses the entire way through. Like it.
Yeah, like if
There's-
you
Yeah,
have the
but
money,
the
you don't have
the buses
time,
get cheaper,
Sure, but like
like
that doesn't-
like a lot cheaper, like
a
fractions.
busser will make more currency in a week than you will not bussing. This is also not an issue.
Also, there is the thing of like even right now with buses, like I don't know, Roman hasn't seen it at all, but like people are literally doing buses right now for less than the gold that the raid makes, just because they want to play the game, not they want to just play with their 2 other bus dudes and just carry. They don't really even care what they're making.
Well, I
What's
don't know.
your
The last time I saw a bus, I was watching Saturn solo stay of mine. So
Yep, people are just doing that still, even at like fractional gold gains, just because they want to do it that way. They want to play the game that way. That's probably become more common of the bus lobby. Like, also, people are just absolutely pricing themselves out of, like, bussers are just pricing themselves out, right? At like prime time, you'll see the price of a bus go from like 15K to like 5K because people just can't wait because I don't know. Busing isn't a problem, and it wouldn't be a problem even if you uncap the amount of times you could enter, because it's just fine. It's a fine thing. It can exist.
Weren't you the guy that like hated busing? You hated the idea that you had to bus to stay
Yeah.
relevant.
Yeah, I just don't like I don't like busing myself, right? Like it's an activity I actively don't want to do.
I love busing. It just makes the game a little more fun. Cause like
Lewd
when everything just becomes homework, it just becomes sleeper.
You would, yeah, don't come play the game then. Yeah, I definitely think that the one thing that they don't even have to keep it permanently, right? They could just experiment with it as developers. I don't know why they don't do this more. They should just experiment with shifting the formula more.
I think shifting the formula is very risky.
I think the current sentiment building up in the community, especially if you creep on Invent posts, and even just on Reddit or just in Twitch chats, is that,
You know, I agree.
or
That's for sure.
or even in the Lost Ark Discord, is that the current state of homework stuff, people are fine with Chaos, Guardians, and Unas right now. That has been pretty much alleviated. People are okay with it. The current structure of the way we do raids on a roster every week is the new, can we mess with this a little bit? Because it's the same thing, right? Dailies and like Chaos and Guardians were okay technically, but people had been doing them in the exact same way with no adjustment for 5 years or 3 years, and they just like people were like,
I
just try something
the-
different.